strap in, everyone, because today's deep dive is a wild one.
It really is.
We're talking about young Philly.
Yeah.
Comedian, musician, millions of followers. He's everywhere online.
Everywhere.
And now he's facing some seriously intense charges.
Seemingly out of nowhere.
It's got everyone talking. Like, how did this happen?
Right.
So before we get into the heavy stuff, let's give everyone a clear picture.
Okay.
Who eyes young Philly, beyond the headlines? Some people might not know his whole story.
Yeah, for sure. So, young Philly, real name, Andres Felipe Valencia Barrientos.
Okay.
Starts his life in Colombia, but grows up super classic UK, But here's the thing. Before the fame, his life, kind of relatable.
Oh, really? How so?
Yeah, single parent home, finished school, tried a bunch of different jobs. He was even a broker for a bit.
Wow. A totally different path.
Right.
It's crazy how he went from that to, internet mega fame.
It is pretty wild.
And it wasn't instant, right?
Yeah.
He actually put in the work.
Exactly. And I think that's what grabbed people, especially people who feel a bit lost, unsure of their direction.
They saw him figuring it out.
Exactly. Started with those comedy skits, working with other YouTubers who were also, up and coming at the time.
Yeah, those collabs were smart. I bet working with people like Chunks really helped.
Oh, definitely. But you gotta hand it to him. His humor, those quick, funny skits, they struck a chord with a huge audience.
For sure, they did.
And he really knew how to ride that wave, Turned that YouTube success into Instagram, TikTok, the whole 9 yards, even launched a music career, had concerts lined up, everything.
Oh, yeah, and the brand deal.
Pouring in.
Foot Asylum, even the Football Association, they were using him for their healthy eating thing, remember?
Yeah, it was huge.
It seemed like he was untouchable, going to be everywhere forever. And then, boom.
Yeah.
Australia happened.
Australia, October 2024. He's there promoting his single, Tempted, doing a concert series.
Tempted, right.
And that's where everything changes. An alleged assault gets reported at a hotel in Perth.
Okay.
And then shortly after, he's arrested in Brisbane.
And these weren't maybe he slipped up charges,
No, not at all.
We're talking 4 counts of rape, 3 counts of assault causing bodily harm, even 1 count of impeding breathing.
Serious stuff.
It was like a bombshell. Nobody saw it coming.
And to make it all even heavier, during the bail hearing, the prosecution mentioned they have evidence.
What kind of evidence?
CCTV photos suggesting and this is a direct quote, history of violent acts.
Oh, wow.
Which, paints a very different picture than the young Philly everyone thought they knew.
A history of violent acts.
Yeah.
Man, that sends chills down your spine. What else is out there? What aren't we seeing?
Exactly.
But before we get into all that, let's shift gears a little.
Okay.
Let's talk about what's happened since the arrest, because the fallout, it's been swift and it's been brutal.
Yeah, it has.
It's like the second those charges went public, it was like everyone just bailed.
Yeah.
Brands, organizations, everyone just trying to distance themselves as fast as possible.
It really shows you the risk, I guess, of influencer marketing.
Right.
These brands, they tie themselves to these online personalities, hoping some of that, that shine will rub off on them.
Yeah, that halo effect.
Exactly. But the risk when things go bad, it's huge.
And it wasn't even like a let's wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was cut and run immediately.
100%. Foot Asylum, they had him in, a bunch of YouTube videos? Their statement was super serious charges, done, contract suspended, effective immediately, no messing around.
No.
Heinz, GDK, all the same, pulled their ads, scrubbed them from their socials, the whole deal.
Even the Football Association. Remember that healthy eating campaign they had him doing?
Yeah.
Gone.
Which, they thought about that one.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't a light decision.
No.
It just shows how much potential damage these situations pose to a brand. Being associated with these kinds of allegations, even just associated, can be enough.
Yeah, public opinion is a beast.
It moves so fast, and it can be really unforgiving.
And then there's that podcast event, Troxy in London.
Oh, yeah.
Canceled just like that.
Poof. Career vanished overnight.
It makes you wonder, what about the people he worked with? What did they know?
Right.
What did they see?
We have to talk about Chunks.
His boy.
Right. Close friend, podcast co-host. This clip from an older episode of their podcast resurfaced, and it's a bit chilling now.
Oh, really? What is it?
So Chunks is joking around, and he says he wouldn't let young Philly marry into his family.
Okay.
Because, and I quote, he's heard too many stories.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in hindsight, not so funny anymore.
No. Gives you that feeling were there whispers this whole time? Rumors.
Right, things people in their circle had heard that never made it out to the public. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, it is.
And then you've got Angry Ginge, remember him? He co-founded that virtual football team with Young Philly, Girth and Turf FC.
Right, yeah.
He addressed it on his Twitch stream, said he was completely blindsided by the whole thing.
Interesting.
But even then, his response felt,
Calculated.
yeah, like he was really thinking about every word.
Right.
Which honestly makes sense in this situation. Imagine being one of these guys.
Yeah.
Shock, confusion, probably feeling a little betrayed, maybe. And on top of all that, anything you say is going to be analyzed to death.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One wrong word, and it's over. It's wild, right? Like, it makes you think, how well can you really know anyone online,
Yeah.
Especially when they're putting so much effort into their image.
It's true. It's easy to forget that behind these influencers, there's a whole team,
Oh, yeah. Shaping how they're perceived,
Yeah.
managing their brand. It's a business.
Exactly. It's a business.
And when that carefully built image explodes like this,
Things get complicated.
it's not just young Philly's career that's on the line. Right. Legally, this is huge for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's got his next court date coming up in December, and to be honest, this could drag on for a while.
Yeah.
The legal system, it's not known for its speed,
For sure not.
And they didn't exactly go easy on the bail conditions, big bond, passports gone, daily check-ins with the Perth police. It's a lot.
I saw those pictures, him at the Perth Police Center. It's a different guy.
Right.
No fancy clothes, no joking for the camera. Like, you can see the weight of it all on his face.
It really hits home, that this is real life. Behind the curated feeds and the perfect moments online, there are real consequences playing out.
For sure.
And honestly, no matter what the verdict is at the end of all this, his career, it's already taken a major hit.
Yeah, public opinion can be brutal.
It really can.
But this whole thing, it's bigger than just young Philly. You
Yeah.
know, it makes you think about online personas versus reality, the responsibility these brands have when they jump into bed with influencers,
Definitely.
and how fast everything can change.
It's a wake-up call for sure. We're living in this world where online influence is so powerful, it's easy to get caught up in it all.
Totally.
But we have to be smarter, more critical, more aware of the potential downsides.
It's easy to forget that there are actual human beings behind those screens, both the influencers and the people who follow them.
That's the thing. We're all in this together, whether we like it or not.
It's a lot to take in. This whole situation with young Philly, it's a wild ride, and honestly, it leaves us with more questions than answers.
Yeah, it really does.
But that's the world we're living in.
Yeah.
Just remember, everyone, things aren't always what they seem online, and sometimes the people we think we know,
Well,
we might not know them at all. Until next time, keep asking questions, stay informed, and we'll be back soon to dive into another one.
Calm down. You have all the time in the world. I'm listening to you. I'm here. We are here. Take your time. You say what you want to say. You don't want to say. It's absolutely fine. We are here. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm just getting. People are saying to get to the point, so I'm just going to get to the point.
No. Listen to me. Don't worry about these rascal people, you understand? Because I'll lock off comments, you know what I mean? I don't give a fuck. And to be honest, they're not liking up the live like they're supposed to, you know what I'm saying? Because I'll shut this shit off. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I want you to be comfortable in telling this story because we absolutely need to get to the bottom of this shit. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not sitting on here for fucking 3 hours to, you know what I'm saying, be rushed. Absolutely the fuck not. So, Cheyenne, take your time. She wanted to go back to yours to get ready for a night with Philly, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Go.
Yeah. So the club was literally in town. I lived in town, so me and this other girl, we were in the club where Philly was. And as soon as she left, my friend that was going to get ready to go see him, as soon as she left, Philly started like whining on some other girl. Even though all that night, like he was like, telling, I was about to say her name, telling my friend like, oh, come back with me.
Wait, but were they together or not?
They weren't together. Like they just used to see each other. So every time they go to a club together, they see each other on the same night. They'd always leave together, like always, yeah. So anyways, so that happened, and so I messaged her, told her like, look, he's literally whining on some other girl. She comes back within like 5-10 minutes because I didn't live too far, and next minute he's messaging her saying, oh, come to the car, I'm leaving. And he's literally messaging her like abuse, like saying like, I'm leaving you, I don't care, like, and so
I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to put my 2 pence in about
this whole Young Philly situation. And I'm not even going to talk about him personally or how shocked I am about this whole situation, because I listened to the podcast, I really loved them off. Not going to talk about that. What I am going to talk about is the men guys, I've heard this comment so many times before. Yeah, even my ex used to live by this comment of, well, she went back to the hotel room, well, she went back to his house, so like what she had the intentions to sleep with him, but what else did she think was going to happen? It doesn't matter. And I can't believe how, like, it's such a common thing for men to have this opinion, and they say it as if they're so in the right. They're like, well, she went back to the hotel, like, yeah, I'm not making excuses for him, but she went back to the hotel, so like, what were her intentions going back to a hotel with Young Philly? Do you know what I mean?
Care, like, you know. And so I've got a video of this, by the way. So we go to the back of the club, me and my friend, and then the girl that's going back with Philly, like, she gets in his car and he's literally shouting at her saying, like, no, get out, I don't want you here anymore, like, you're taking your time, whatever. So anyways, later that night, it was around like 3 a.m, she goes to his hotel, she rings me, and she's like whispering, she's saying like, oh, like, Siren, can you come, like, get an Uber from me, like, whatever. And I was like, are you okay? And she said, no, like, you know, I need to go. And she's like, actually, no, wait, one minute. Anyways, so later that morning, she told me what actually happened. So she wanted to leave around 3 a.m. when she called me, but then she said, oh, you're either staying and take your clothes off, or you're leaving. So she stayed because they had history, and she just felt like, you know, he had all this power. Like, she felt so gullible in the moment. And when she told me that story, like 8 a.m, like, she came literally to my place, makeup on, everything, like, from the night before. She was.
Ever notice how online, like, personas are?
Yeah.
It's all crafted so meticulously, you know, years building a brand, building an image, and then bam, gone, just like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild how fast it can unravel.
It is.
And that's actually what we're diving into today, this whole thing with YouTuber Young Philly.
Okay.
And all the serious allegations against him.
Right.
So Young Philly,
Yeah.
real name, Andres Felipe Valencia Barrientos. You know, he blew up with the comedy and the football content,
Yeah.
millions of subscribers, brand deals, whole 9 yards. But things took a bit of a turn, you know, recently during his trip to Australia.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, it's we're talking some heavy charges here. 4 counts of rape,
Wow.
3 counts of assault causing bodily harm,
Okay.
and 1 count of impeding breathing. So, serious stuff.
Yeah.
But what we're really digging into today
Right.
is this new information that's come out. There's a friend of the alleged victim who's come forward.
Okay.
And this testimony is...
Well, let's just say it adds a whole other layer to the story. I can imagine. Yeah, it's these kinds of testimonies can really make or break a case, legally speaking.
Yeah, so break this down for us a bit.
Yeah.
What makes this friend's testimony so important?
Well, think of it like this. When you're building a case, especially one as serious as this, you're often trying to establish a pattern of behavior.
Okay.
Almost like building a mosaic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each piece might not be a full picture,
Right.
but together
Right.
they start to reveal something bigger.
So it's not just about what might have happened on this one night, but potentially showing a bigger picture of who Young Philly is, maybe.
Exactly. And this friend, who wants to remain anonymous,
Yeah.
says she's known the alleged victim for years, trusts her completely. And from what she's saying, her account of that night checks out.
She even talked about how, you know, her friend was so excited to meet Young Philly, you know.
Oh, wow.
Like at this after party in Perth
Okay.
they were at. Total fan, right?
Mhm.
Which honestly makes what she described next even more disturbing. So, according to the friend, Young Philly's whole demeanor just changed at this after party.
Really?
Like flipped a switch. He went from, you know, fun and charming to different. And then, I don't know if you saw this in the reports, but she used
Yeah.
this one phrase that really stuck with me.
Okay.
She claims that he became aggressive, dismissive, and treated her like she was nothing.
Wow.
Strong words.
They are.
And they definitely paint a different picture of the Young Philly we see online, you know?
Definitely. And, you know, this ties back into that pattern idea. The friend claims she'd seen him act this way before.
Really?
Yeah, with other people he thought were, I guess, unimportant.
Wow.
Almost like he was using his fame as a shield.
So this testimony you're saying,
Yeah.
if true,
Yeah.
could actually change the game in court.
It's definitely something the prosecution will be looking at closely.
Wow.
And for me, it just highlights this larger issue of power dynamics, especially in these fan-influencer relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, when someone has a massive platform,
Yeah.
millions hanging on their every word, it's a position that can so easily be abused.
That's a really good point. It's almost like, in some cases, people in those positions think they're untouchable, above the rules.
It's a slippery slope.
And what gets me is, if what this friend is saying is true, it sounds like people were actually afraid to speak up because of his popularity.
Which is why her coming forward is so significant. It takes real guts to potentially be that first voice, to break that silence.
You know, it makes you wonder, though. What about the people in young Philly's life, you know? Like his close friends, his inner circle. Did they know anything? Do they suspect anything? Because we got to talk about Chunks.
Okay, yeah.
You know, his longtime friend and podcast co-host.
Right.
There's this old clip from their podcast, The Chunks and Philly Show, where Chunks actually jokes about not letting young Philly marry into his family.
Oh, really?
And the reason he gives.
Right.
Heard too many stories. I mean, come on. That offhand comment suddenly seems a lot more telling now, right?
It does make you wonder what Chunks knew back then. Like, was this an open secret or something?
Yeah.
Like, what did people know? And when did they know it?
Right. It really makes you think. And it's not just Chunks either. Brands are starting to react too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing companies like Food Asylum, German Doner Kebab.
Okay.
They're cutting ties with young Philly left and right.
Yeah, that's not surprising. It's classic brand safety in action.
Brand safety. So for those of us who aren't like marketing gurus, what does that even mean?
Basically, brands are terrified of anything that might damage their reputation.
Okay.
They don't want anything that could be seen as a negative association with their product.
So it's a business decision. Protect the brand.
Exactly. And in today's world, with social media and everything, news spreads so fast, companies don't even want to risk getting caught up in something like this.
Right. So they're like, nope, out of here. Don't even want to be associated with that.
Pretty much. Better safe than sorry, right?
Wow. It's crazy how quickly things can change. But this whole situation, it's making me think. It goes way beyond just one influencer and like his brand deals.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like, how are WE as viewers playing into all of this? You know, this whole influencer ecosystem.
Oh, that's a really good point. I think this case really forces us to look in the mirror a bit. Ask ourselves some tough questions.
Like what?
Like, how much power are W giving these influencers? Are we too quick to put them on a pedestal? Are we, I don't know, excusing bad behavior because we enjoy their content? It's something to think about.
It really is. It's so easy to forget that there are actual human beings behind these online personas.
Totally. And those humans, well, they make mistakes just like the rest of us.
And it's like what that friend said about people being afraid to speak up.
Right.
Because they didn't want to, risk their connection to him, to his fame. It's kind of messed up.
Yeah, it is. And that's why this case is so important. It's a huge reminder that the internet, for all it's good, isn't above the law.
No, absolutely not.
And look, we can't expect influencers to be perfect. No one is. But we should hold them accountable for their actions, just like anyone else.
100%. And it sounds like that accountability starts with us, the viewers.
Exactly. We need to be more critical of what we see online, ask the tough questions, and definitely don't be afraid to call out behavior that's not okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, our support, the views, the likes, it all contributes to the power these influencers have.
Right, and it's a two-way street. We give them power, and they have a responsibility to use it wisely.
It's all about finding that balance, isn't it?
It really is. We have to hold creators accountable while also remembering that everyone deserves a fair chance, legally speaking.
Right. So where do we go from here? How do we, as viewers, navigate this whole complex influencer landscape? Like, how do we hold them accountable without it turning into a witch hunt or, canceling someone based on allegations alone?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, I don't know if there's an easy answer.
It feels like every other week there's another scandal, another influencer being exposed.
It's overwhelming, for sure. But for me, it comes down to being both skeptical and open-minded. We can't just believe everything we see online, especially when it comes to accusations like this.
So it's about doing our own research, looking for different perspectives.
Exactly. Don't just hit that retweet button based on a headline. Think for yourself. Question things. And remember, behind every profile, every username, there's a real person with real feelings.
Be informed, not just outraged. I like that. It's a lot, trying to figure out who to believe, what's real, especially when it's somebody you might have followed online for years.
Right. It's like you think you know someone.
Exactly. And then this stuff comes out, and it's like, how do you even process that? How do you square that online persona with, well, this?
It's tough. And I think it speaks to the fact that these online platforms, they only show us a sliver of reality.
Yeah, it's also curated.
Exactly. We see what they want us to see.
Which is why this whole thing with young Philly feels like a wake-up call, honestly.
I agree.
It makes you realize we can't just blindly follow these personalities without acknowledging the potential for, well, for things to go wrong.
Absolutely. We have to be more discerning about who we give our attention to online, who we support, because at the end of the day, we're the ones giving these influencers power.
So where do we even go from here? How do we balance, like, holding influencers accountable with not creating this culture of online mob justice? That's not the answer either.
Right. And I don't think there's a simple answer. But I will say this. Influencers, at the end of the day, they're brands. They're selling us something.
Okay.
Whether it's a product, a lifestyle, an image. And just like with any brand, we as consumers have a responsibility to be informed and make conscious choices about who we support.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
We do have more power than we realize sometimes.
You do. But that power comes with responsibility, right? We need to be asking ourselves the tough questions, like, are we supporting someone whose values align with our own? Are we overlooking potentially problematic behavior just because we enjoy someone's content?
It's about thinking critically, and not just about what we're watching or reading, but about the impact of our own actions online.
Exactly. It's about having these conversations even when they're difficult. The more we talk about these issues, the more aware we become, and honestly, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the complexities of online culture.
Well said. So, as we kind of wrap things up here, I guess, where does this leave us? With young Philly's case still ongoing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, we'll have to see how the legal process plays out. But I think one thing's for sure. This conversation about influencer accountability, it's not going away.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't. This whole situation with young Philly, it's been a lot to unpack.
It has. It's a lot bigger than just one influencer or one scandal, It's about power, online and off. And it's about all of us demanding better, from the creators we support, from the platforms we use, and from ourselves.
I like that. Demanding better. That's a good note to end on. So for everyone listening, here's my takeaway. Don't just scroll mindlessly. Be present. Be critical. Be informed. Your attention is valuable. Choose wisely who deserves it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been a heavy one, but important nonetheless. We covered a lot of ground today. Until next time, stay curious, and as always, thanks for joining us.
Was close to being raped in prison.
Hey!
Yeah, bro. And this is him
That's
on
why I
TV.
wouldn't want to do true crime. Not R word for me. I don't even like saying it, bro.
Yeah, it's just the harsh reality, innit?
Yeah, I know, but just allow me.
I'm
I
saying
don't want to
as in-
speak on it. Not on
yeah,
my
it's
platform.
mad.
Ever heard that saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall? Well, today we're diving into a story that really puts that idea to the test, right? Talking about young Philly YouTuber going from viral prankster to facing some really heavy accusations.
Yeah, it's quite a fall from grace when you think about it.
Right. You probably know him, Andres Felipe Valencia Barrientos. That's his real name from his online stuff, the laughs, collabs, all those followers. But lately, headlines for a whole other reason. October 2024, he was in Perth, Australia, and bam, hit with multiple charges. Rape and assault, actually.
Yeah, and those aren't charges that get taken lightly, especially not in Australia.
No, not at all. To be specific, it's 4 counts of rape, 3 counts of assault causing bodily harm, and 1 count of impeding breathing. That's serious stuff.
Absolutely, those are some really serious allegations. And the Australian legal system, they don't mess around.
Nope. And to make it all even more intense, he's out on bail right now, but with a lot of conditions. No passport, checking in with the police daily. Just shows how seriously they're taking these charges,
Oh, for sure. What people need to understand is that these charges carry some major weight in Australian law. We're not talking about a slap on the wrist here. If he's found guilty, could be facing years, potentially even decades in prison, They're going to be looking at every single piece of evidence really, really carefully. And the potential consequences for young Philly, they're very real.
And it's not even just the legal stuff he's got to be worried about, right? Just being linked to these kinds of accusations, even without a guilty verdict, it can completely wreck your public image, especially these days with social media and everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But here's where this whole thing takes another turn. Before Australia even happened, young Philly, he built his whole career in the UK, right? That's where he blew up, where his biggest fans are. And now it seems like that's where even more allegations are starting to pop up. And these new allegations coming from the UK, it's not like isolated incidents or anything. It's more like pointing to a whole pattern of behavior, you know?
Right, yeah.
Got to be super clear, though. Right now, no one's gone to the police in the UK. No official complaints or anything like that.
Okay, so nothing official. Got it.
Yeah. But even so, multiple people have come forward, right? And they're all saying similar things, like hinting at this pattern of manipulation, coercion, especially back when young Philly was first getting big. Like there's this one person, they want to stay anonymous, but they knew him back in the day, and they were saying they always felt pressured to put his career first, like above all else. Kind of like his whole stardom thing just kind of overshadowed everything.
Yeah, and that's a big red flag, isn't it? You see that a lot in these types of situations, that pressure, the power imbalance, especially early on, right? When someone's building their name, they rely on a close circle, and it sounds like, well, maybe his behavior went beyond ambition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And it's not just like this one person either. Others who've worked with him, they've sort of said the same thing. Huge difference between young Philly on camera, all fun and laughs, and then how he was off camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some are saying he could be really aggressive, dismissive, even like making the people around him feel small, you know?
It's that classic disconnect, isn't it? The public persona versus the private behavior. And honestly, it's not all that uncommon, especially with these rapid rises to fame, this whole online world, social media stardom. Image is everything in that world, right? So when your livelihood's based on this persona, it's got to be tempting to just hide the not-so-great parts of yourself.
And that kind of leads us to the fallout he's already dealing with, even with these UK allegations still up in the air, so to speak. It's crazy how, in this day and age, even the suggestion of something bad can have huge consequences.
Yeah, it's like that whole saying, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. Sometimes just the appearance of something bad can be just as damaging as the real thing, you know?
Oh, absolutely, especially in the court of public opinion, right?
Exactly. And we're seeing it firsthand with young Philly. Some big names have already jumped ship. Shows you how toxic even the whiff of a scandal can be these days.
Yeah, no one wants to be caught in that blast radius. For real. Foot Asylum, they had that whole partnership with him, right? Gone, like, as soon as the allegations came out. And they weren't the only ones. German Downer Kebab, Heinz, they both used him in their ads. Yep, they bailed too.
Yeah, makes sense, right? Got to protect the brand. In this day and age, news travels so fast, any little thing, it could blow up in your face.
Totally.
Companies can't risk that, being associated with someone who's, well, let's just say, someone who's got that cloud hanging over them.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good reminder, in that whole world of online fame, your image is everything. Lose that, and the ripple effects, man, they can be huge, way bigger than just like a court case or whatever.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
And it's not just brands hitting the brakes, right? Even his own people, his inner circle, they're putting some distance there.
Really? You think it's that deep?
Seems like it. I mean, take Chunks, for example. His co-host on the Chunks and Philly show.
Yeah.
He's silent, like radio silence. And Angry Ginge, they did that whole Girth and Turf FC thing together. He came out and said straight up, I'm out, wants nothing to do with it.
Wow. That's got to sting a bit, being shut out like that, especially when you're already in a vulnerable spot.
Right. It's like all that stuff we were talking about, the manipulation, if that's true, this kind of isolation, it's got to make it 10 times worse. Right?
Well, absolutely. It feeds into that whole cycle, doesn't it? The very things he's accused of doing, they make it harder to deal with the fallout. It's like a vicious circle,
So where do we go from here? It's like we've got this legal battle in Australia, could mean serious time. Then there's all this stuff in the UK, no telling where that'll end up. It's a lot.
It really is.
Oh, yeah.
The big question is what happens now? Will more people in the UK come forward, actually go to the police? And how is this all going to affect that case in Australia? But the biggest question of all, maybe, can young Philly ever bounce back from this? Like, is the damage just too much, even if he sound innocent?
That's the thing, isn't it? Even if he's cleared of all charges, that stain, that doubt, it lingers.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you think, doesn't it? About fame, about the price you pay, the responsibility that comes with all those followers. It's a double-edged sword,
Totally. We've got to wrap things up, but this whole story, it's far from over. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. But for now, keep those questions coming. And remember, there's always more to uncover. Until next time.